Who wins the battle of the SEC West? Can Georgia Tech and Georgia win division titles? The Falcons limp into New York. Plus, Jeffrey's picks and Adams fantasy football. Play to Win is being brought to you by the Southeastern Nissan dealers and Mellow Mushroom Pizza Bakers.
Welcome to Play to Win with former Falcons All-Pro defensive end Chuck Smith. Game analysis with Adam Brown. Fantasy Football League previews by Nikki Williams. Play to Win expert Jeffrey Schechter. Injury updates with Dr. Andrew Lalage. And your host, Atlanta sports veteran Bob Neal.
Our college football report is being brought to you by Mall of Georgia, Chrysler Dodge Jeep, and Kia Mall of Georgia. Dr. Lalage and Adam will be along a little bit later with the player medical report and fantasy football. Let's meet the stars on the set. And we begin with Jeffrey, the Edge Schechter. Jeffrey is the man who's going to tell us who to play to win. And that's really big today because we have some big ball games. Nikki Williams is gloating over some of the picks, particularly the Steve Smith comments in the NFL last week.
Head is growing.
Called it hair.
Hair.
Does that make
You
your hair
wouldn't know
grow?
about that.
When you
No, I
gloat,
wouldn't.
your hair grows? That's a good thing.
My hair gets big.
You
not
need
my
to
head.
gloat some more
I
then.
need to glow some more.
And of course, former Falcon All-Pro Chuck Smith is with us to break down the NFL and college football. And guys, let's get started with our big national games and our college football report. And there are a lot of ranked teams playing ranked teams. For instance, nationally, Stanford at Notre Dame, Oklahoma at TCU, and Nebraska at Michigan State. That's 3 national games. We can go into the SEC West, which is what we're going to break down for you on today's show. And we have 3 games with 6 ranked teams out of 1 division. LSU, Auburn, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Alabama, and Ole Miss. Break them all down. But Chuck, before we start, in the SEC East, we listed this game, even though they're not ranked. Florida at Tennessee. Often, in years past, that's like been a game to determine the SEC East. Not so much this time, but a real important game if Tennessee, your alma mater, beats Florida.
Well, that's exactly right. And this could be the end for Will Muschamp as we know it. If he goes up to Knoxville and gets blown out, it's going to be hard to even consider bringing him back next year for the Gators.
All right, let's break them down in the SEC West. Let's start with Texas A&M, off to a surprisingly good start in the year without Johnny Manziel, thanks to Trill Hill. And they're going to play at Mississippi State, also playing really well. Nikki Williams, how do you see it?
Well, Mississippi State's going to give them a run for their money. And we're talking the Bulldogs have got this dual threat in Dak Prescott. We've talked about him over and over, and probably the best front 7 in the whole SEC. The Aggies may have been exposed by Arkansas last week.
What do you think about that game, Jeffrey?
Mississippi State may be the best team in the country. I think Texas A&M is in for it.
Wow. Okay, we'll get his pick a little bit later, but that's a prelude to the pick. All right, let's talk about another big one, and this is LSU, who's off to, even though they're still ranked, off to a rough start from what we expected,
Right.
playing at Auburn. Can LSU win at Auburn?
Well, I don't know because LSU, they're starting a new quarterback in Brandon Harris. But to me, it's all about this Auburn defense led by Gabe Wright, number 90 down there from Columbus, Georgia. Auburn's been real stout, and I think it's going to be a tough matchup for LSU. I don't think LSU runs the ball. They can't throw. So I think it's going to be a big win for Auburn.
All right, now it is time for our college showdown of the week, brought to you by the Georgia Lottery, and that is Alabama going to Ole Miss. As a matter of fact, things haven't been this hopping in Ole Miss since the last time I was there. I'm talking about
That was a long
ESPN's
time
Game
ago.
Day. It's at 3:30 this afternoon. It was a long time ago.
I was just
back when
there.
Archie Manning was playing there. I'm kidding. It was after that. And the game day is there. Ole Miss is ranked. Alabama comes in. This is an incredible game. Start us off on this. Is there a chance for Ole Miss versus Alabama?
Yes, because Ole Miss plays defense, led by Robert Kendichi out of Grayson here locally. I mean, he's a stud in the middle at defensive tackle, be a first-round NFL draft pick someday. I mean, I just think Blake Sims is going to have a lot of problems throwing the ball downfield versus this Ole Miss defense.
Nikki, how do you see it?
I think Bama's front 7 smells blood, and I think when they see a mistake or an inconsistency, they thrive off of it, and I think there are going to be some mistakes. I don't know if Ole Miss is ready for what's coming at them this week.
Oh, they're ready.
You think they're ready? I want them to
think
be
they're
ready.
I think they're ready. I think it's their time.
And Saban's had, what, a couple of weeks to prepare? This doesn't even
Good
seem
point.
fair.
Good point. 2 weeks to prepare for
Yeah.
Nick
It's not
Saban
fair.
is tough. It ought to be a good one, though. Jeffrey, let's get your picks now. Here is the Edge and his picks for this week's main college game. So here's how you see it.
I think LSU is going to come in last in the SEC West. That doesn't mean they're a bad team, but they're just not that good. Give the 7.5 with Auburn. A&M is walking into a ambush. I think Mississippi State is going to beat their brains in. A&M was lucky to beat Arkansas last week. Last year, same scenario. Mississippi was undefeated. Bama shut them out. Mississippi's season went downhill. I think Mississippi's going to give them a game this year. Take the Rebels in the 7.
Wow, this is good. I just noted a stat here that I'm
Risky.
sure Jeffrey's aware of. In the last 20 games, Ole Miss, when they've been a home underdog, is only 1-19. But Jeffrey's telling you, watch out for them this week. We're going to come back just a moment with our hometown team report. And I want to remind you, catch us online at playingtowin.tv.
Kia Mall of Georgia is building a new dealership to serve you, Atlanta. We're exploding the old building and the competition with the biggest savings of the year during our construction sale. Get a new 2015 Kia Sorento LX starting at only $19,997. Find a 2015 Kia Optima LX starting at only $17,997. All inventory drastically reduced, and lenders are standing by with a 100% loan approval goal. Kia Mall of Georgia, 2.5 miles west of the Mall of Georgia, or online at lovemykia.com.
Right after I got hurt in my car wreck, the other guy's insurance company offered to fix my car, but they only offered me $750 for my injuries. And then they wanted me to sign this.
Don't sign anything until you've talked to me. I'm attorney John Foy, the Strong Arm. You may be giving up tens of thousands of dollars by signing the insurance company's release form. Call me.
Their insurance company offered to fix my car and offer me this check for $1,000.
Don't take that check. Let me get you the money you deserve. Call in the Strong Arm.
Call attorney John Foy, the Strong Arm.
Introducing the new Walking Dead Scratcher from the Georgia Lottery. With a chance to win up to $50,000. You'd better get them before they get you.
Hometown Team Report is being brought to you by Mellow Mushroom Pizza Bakers, bringing a higher order of pizza to Atlanta for 40 years.
All right, time for our hometown team report. That always means Georgia, Georgia Tech, and the Atlanta Falcons. And the first game with Georgia and Vanderbilt, we'll talk about that a lot in just a moment because Georgia is a big favorite, 33 points. Miami at Georgia Tech in a big one, and Atlanta limps into New York Giants to play in the Big Apple. But let's get started talking about Georgia Tech and Miami. Miami comes into town. Georgia Tech is 4-0, and if they were to beat Miami at Grant Field this weekend, it's a 7:30 game, by the way, big hoopla down on the flats, ESPN trucks are here. If they were to beat, they could winnable the next 3 games. They could go like 8-0. How do you see this game?
Well, I see it as Georgia Tech's got a quarterback that can win. Justin Thomas, he's shown he's one of the most electrifying players in college football. And I got to give a lot of credit to Paul Johnson. Under a lot of fire in the offseason, has taken control of this program, and they're in a lot better shape as a program than Miami is. And if you'd have told me that years ago, I would have probably been surprised. But doing a good job at Tech.
All right, Miami rolls into Georgia Tech, Paul Johnson's team. They're 4-0.
I'm with you, Chuck. I think if Miami wants to do anything, they're going to have to make your boy throw. That's their only way to do anything.
Right.
But you know, if you look at the game last season, Miami didn't take control until the 4th quarter. So this game could come down to the wire at the very end. Miami's notorious for it.
All right, we're going to get Jeffrey's pick on that in just a moment. Now let's talk about the University of Georgia and the SEC. And who better to break down Georgia's dogs and the SEC than a former dog star, Buck Belue, in our 68 seconds with 680.
Let's start with this. Yes, Todd Gurley, the best running back at Georgia since Herschel Walker. They both can leap tall buildings. Speaking of that Georgia passing game, let's not freak out on Hudson Mason yet. He gets 2 deep ball weapons back, Mitchell and Scott Wesley. Their skill set, hey, run it deep down the sideline. That's going to help this Georgia passing game. They won't see cover 2 with the double safeties. They need that safety to stop the run. Remember when the Gators and Volunteers were a big deal? Spurrier 7-2 against Fulmer back then. The big key in this game, 3rd down. Tennessee's defense, the best in the SEC. The Gators' offense, the worst. Today's 2 best matchups. You got the Mississippi State D-line taking on the Texas A&M O-line, and then you've got Lane Kiffin coaching Alabama's offense going up against that Ole Miss defense, the defensive line coach, Lane's brother, Chris. Toughest October schedule in college football. That title goes to Ole Miss. They get Alabama, A&M, Tennessee, and LSU this month. Bad news for LSU. Auburn's undefeated at home under Gus Malzahn. They've won 11 in a row by an average of 10 points. And yes, I've got Auburn in my top 4 as we look forward to that college football playoff.
All right, 68 seconds with Buck Ballou from 680 The Fan. And by the way, every Saturday morning at about 9:45, I join Buck and Chuck Oliver on their college football report right on 680 The Fan. Hope you'll catch that and all the great programming at Atlanta's leader in sports talk radio. All right, now that he's talked about that, it's time to talk about the Atlanta Falcons. Chuck Smith, your former team where you were a great all-pro at defensive end. They're having trouble with the pass rush, but more than anything else, Falcons have a lot of injuries on that offensive line. They go in to play the New York Giants. Your thoughts on the Falcons' ability to win up there with the situation they're in?
Well, it's going to be tough on the Falcons, particularly from the offensive line standpoint. You lose 3 guys. I mean, you got a good New York Giants young pass rush with Demontre Moore and a lot of those guys that can really get after it. The Falcons have to shore up the pass rush because the only chance they have in protection is Matt Ryan throwing the ball. So that the pass protection is going to be the key.
All right, how about the Giants and Falcons? Nikki, you don't look happy.
I never do, Bob, and I don't mean it to be that way. It's just if you even just take the injuries out of this, the Falcons 0-2 on the road. The next 2 months, we've only got 1 dome game, and we're nasty when it comes to outdoor games. I think, what is it, a 9-game losing streak outdoor. We did beat the Buffalo Bills, but their roof was closed. I mean, we just don't, we're not.
Okay, so I see where you're going with that. Jeffrey, your thought on this game. Now, you're going to pick it in a minute, but do you have any single thought about the Falcons and Giants?
They're good at home, and they're bad on the road. The offensive line is terrible. The defensive line has no rush. They need Chuck Smith to come out of retirement.
Absolutely. Georgia Vanderbilt game, 33 points. You're not even picking that one.
Georgia plays to the level of their opposition, but not this opposition. So they should easily win this game, and Gurley should get a lot of Heisman yardage. I love this game. Miami did not look good in defeating Duke last week. Duke looked bad. Georgia Tech is going to give them a beating. Take the one with Georgia Tech. Giant-Falcon game, tough number, tough to play, but I'm going to go with the Giants just based on the fact that Atlanta just doesn't win on the road.
All right, Giants, -4. Jeffrey the Edge. Listen to this man. He knows whereof he speaks. We'll be back in just a moment with Dr. Andrew Lalage and the Player Medical Report and fantasy football coming up, too. Stay with us.
Why can't I have a slice of yours?
You're a cartoon. You can only have cartoon pizza.
It's not fair.
Look, this pie is 100% real, and you're colored ink. It's physics, man.
Well, can you buy me a beer?
I can buy you a cartoon beer. Are you single?
It's right.
Everyone wants real Mellow Mushroom Pizza because our pies use premium meats and cheeses, fresh veggies, and spring water dough baked with wheat goodness. Mellow Mushroom, a higher order of pizza.
Your life moves fast, so when you want it fixed, we know you want it fixed fast. I'm Tommy Estes, and we'll fix it at the speed of light. Go to EstesAir.com and see what we can do for you with our heating and air residential services. Your factory authorized carrier dealer is dependable, proven, and ready to help. Save energy and money with a dual fuel system from Estes Services.
We're Estes Services. We'll fix it at the speed of light.
Today's Player Medical Report is being brought to you by Piedmont Healthcare, now a certified member of the MD Anderson Cancer Network.
Joined now by the Chief Medical Officer of the Radiology Group and the creator of InsideInjuries.com, Dr. Andrew Lalage. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I want to get a report on a rumor I've heard. I have heard that former Georgia All-Star, All-Conference, All-American Matthew Stafford with the Lions now is hurt this week. What do you know about that?
So Matthew Stafford, all of his injuries have been to his right shoulder. He's had multiple right shoulder dislocations, an AC joint sprain, and an AC dislocation in the past. Thankfully, this time, he just has a superficial injury to his left leg, and his right hand was wrapped, but all of it's superficial, no internal damage. He should be a go this week.
All right, that's good news because as we go to your player medical report, we're going to start with the guy who catches the Matthew Stafford, Calvin Johnson.
Calvin Johnson, he sustained a ankle injury, probably ligamentous. He was at a B-, now he's at a C+. We project him now to be at 60% performance. You know, it's very difficult not to start him. I'm not going to put him on my do not start list, but we do expect him to be at 60%.
All right, how about Ahmad Bradshaw?
So Ahmad Bradshaw, unfortunately, also has sustained a pretty significant ankle injury, but he's had multiple spinal vertebral disc injuries and a fractured foot. He was actually at a D+, now he's at a D-. He's at 35%.
Everybody wanting to know about Andre Johnson.
Andre Johnson, it's ankle injuries is this week, but with a concussion in 13 and a deep shin bruise in 13, he's also at a D, 40%. He's on my do not start list.
All right, Dr. Lalage is going to be back later in the show to talk about some guys who might be hurt, but who also might play well. So you stay with us for that. We'll be back with more on Play to Win right after this.
Of savings all month long now at Mall of Georgia Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Save $10,000 off the 2014 Ram Crew Cab starting at only $25,999. A 2014 Dodge Charger is $9,000 off MSRP. And during Chrysler's Great American Drive event, get $6,000 off MSRP on a 2015 Chrysler 200. October is the time for great deals on great wheels at Mall of Georgia Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram or online at yourdodge.com.
Today's injury report is brought to you by John Foy and Associates. If you've been injured in an accident, be sure to call John Foy, the strong arm.
All right, let's take a look at who's hurt. And when you look around the NFL, the headline team is the Atlanta Falcon football squad. Look at these injuries, and this is just the ones that are lately. Justin Blaylock is questionable with his knee, did not practice on Wednesday. Joe Hawley with a knee and Lamar Holmes with a foot are both out. Harry Douglas still banged up, but is probable, as is wide receiver Devin Hester. So that's the John Foy and Associates injury report. And now it is time for our Fantasy League report. Who's hot and who's cold, brought to you by Estes Services with Adam Brown. And Adam, I notice in the bye situation, Oakland and Miami are off this week. Any fantasy football interest there?
There's no firepower this week in fantasy football with Oakland and Miami, so they're off.
All right, they're off. We don't care, but they're off. Let's now go to the quarterbacks and talk about who's hot.
Phillip Rivers is hot this week. Phillip Rivers is having the best season of his career. The Jets defense is giving up 22.6 points per game to opposing quarterbacks and 9 touchdowns and no interceptions this year. Phillip Rivers is a must start. He's red hot.
All right, running backs.
Rashad Jennings against Atlanta. Now, I know what we're saying. Atlanta's no good on defense. Well, this backs it up. Jennings is averaging 85.2 yards per game, and the Falcons' D is giving up 32.3 points per game to opposing running backs and 8 touchdowns through 4 games.
Okay, wide receivers, who's hot?
Antonio Brown versus Jacksonville. Now, Jacksonville's defense is terrible. They're giving up 32 fantasy points per game to opposing receivers. 5 touchdowns so far through 4 games. Antonio Brown's averaging 7 catches for 107 yards and 5 touchdowns so far this year.
Okay, let's talk about who's cold in fantasy football. I'm going to guess, I haven't seen this, but I'm going to guess that somebody who throws the ball for New England may be cold.
Little Tom Brady, a little Julian Edelman. They're not doing well at all this year. Tom Brady's having an awful season because he has no time to throw the football. And in turn, Julian Edelman's cold because Tom Brady can't get him the football because he has no time to throw the football. So both of those guys are ice cold this week.
All right, how about sleepers? I love this part of the show.
The sleepers, Marcus Colston's a sleeper. He's had a horrible season so far. 12 receptions, 185 yards and a touchdown through 4 games this year. He's having a horrible season, but the Tampa Bay defense is giving up 33.3 points a game to opposing wide receivers and 6 touchdowns. I think he's going to break out in a big way this week.
Okay, and there's some free agent pickups. What do you have to think about that this week?
Well, everybody knows former University of Georgia running back Isaiah Crowell. He's having a really nice season so far in Cleveland. He's averaging a touchdown per game so far.
Right. Okay, so Isaiah Crowell, if you're thinking about free agents. Adam Brown knows what he's talking about. It's the Fantasy Football Report brought to you by SD Services.
Good luck,
We'll be
everyone.
back in just a moment. Good luck, he says.
Your life moves fast, so when your plumbing goes bad, we know you want it fixed fast. I'm Brian Estes, inviting you to see what we can provide with our plumbing services. We're dedicated to the same high standards of quality we've held ourselves to since 1949. From leak repairs to water pressure, from water heaters to toilet issues. Estes is dependable, proven, and ready to help. Call Estes and we'll fix it at the speed of life.
We're SD Services. We'll fix it at the speed of life.
Right after I got hurt in my car wreck, the other guy's insurance company offered to fix my car. They only offered me $750 for my injury. And they wanted me to sign this.
Don't sign anything until you've talked to me. I'm attorney John Foy, the Strong Arm. You may be giving up tens of thousands of dollars by signing the insurance company's release form. Call me.
And they offered me this check for $1,000.
Don't take that check. Let me get you the money you deserve. Call in the Strong Arm.
Call attorney John Foy, the Strong Arm.
The NFL Report is brought to you by the Greater Atlanta Nissan dealers. Innovation that excites.
NFL starting to shake out here in Week 5. Only 2 undefeated teams remaining, Cincinnati and Arizona. Here are some of the key games this week. Cincinnati at New England, Tampa Bay at New Orleans. That's important to Atlanta Falcons fans. And those teams, by the way, Tampa Bay and New Orleans, are only 1 game out of a lead in the woeful NFC South. Houston at Dallas, Arizona at Denver, and Baltimore at Indianapolis. Jeffrey will be picking a couple of those games in a moment, but let's get started, Nikki, with Cincinnati, New England.
That is not only a football game, Bob, that's a royal ceremony, a passing of the torch ceremony. It's an end of an era for the Patriots. I think they pass it down to a well-rested Bengals.
All right, Patriots finished, do you think?
Well,
this year, in terms of winning this year?
Well, it's still a little early to say if they're finished, Bob. But what I will say is this. Cincinnati's Andy Dalton has been in the MVP conversation this year. Hugh Jackson's done a magnificent job with the Cincinnati Bengals as their offensive coordinator.
Right.
They have a great team, but I think it's more about Cincinnati, what they will do, not as much about what New England can't do this week.
All right. There's a big game that is going to make a lot of the NFL fans in Texas happy. Houston at Dallas. Dallas surprising.
Dallas is surprising. They finally figured out the recipe, run the ball with DeMarco Murray. I mean, this is a Dallas team that has 3 first-round offensive linemen. They're fantastic running the ball. But I tell you this, J.J. Watt for Houston is a once-in-a-generational type defensive player. He's fantastic, and he should be in the conversation for league MVP, which I can't even remember the last time that's ever happened or if it's happened in my lifetime. But he's as good as it gets, and I look forward to an incredible battle. But Cowboys run the ball, handle Houston.
After the Falcons-Giants, my favorite game this week's Arizona playing at Denver. How do you see it?
I love this. Arizona's undefeated. And remember this, Arizona's been like one of the stink pots of the National Football League forever. But now the last couple of years, Bruce Arians has done a magnificent job with this Arizona team. But again, Denver is a team with Peyton Manning that, to me, still is the favorite in the AFC to get to the Super Bowl. I like what Denver brings. Arizona loses their first game, I believe.
All right, and Jeffrey's going to pick that coming up in the Lightning segment. He's got 2 games to pick right now. Jeffrey, how do you see these 2?
Houston, Dallas, both 3-1. I'm surprised by Dallas, not surprised by Houston. Dallas has the best running attack going. Not this week. They run to J.J. Watt, take the Texans in the 6.
Cincinnati and New England.
Cincinnati's a 1-point favorite. I would have liked Cincinnati before last week. I like them even more now. I think New England is just on their way to the end.
All right, more with Jeffrey the Edge Schechter and the lightning round when we come back to Play to Win.
If the car was invented today, it would run on the most affordable energy source available. It would charge overnight. Every morning, you'd wake up with a full tank ready to go. If the car was invented today, it would be the 100% electric Nissan Leaf. With over 800 million gas-free miles driven and automatic HOV lane access, the question isn't why electric, it's why gas.
The 100% electric Nissan Leaf. Nissan, innovation that excites. Now get a 2015 Nissan Leaf for $199 a month.
This is the dream, people. You men will... Is that...
Sir, yes, sir. He's a fire-breathing goat, sir.
Goats can't fly planes. Wow. Give it a shot. Kevin, you okay up there? You could have just asked me what the red button does.
Live out your dreams. Win up to $300,000 playing Keno with the all-new Bullseye.
The Wizard, can you make me real so I can eat real mellow mushroom pizza instead of cartoon pizza?
Stand back. Here we go. Alakazam! Wiggity stickity poof!
I'm still a cartoon.
Then that'd be a no.
Everyone wants real mellow mushroom pizza because our pies use premium meats and cheeses, fresh veggies, and spring water dough baked with wheat goodness.
Wiggity stickity poof.
Mellow mushroom, a higher order of pizza.
All right, it is time for Jeffrey the Edge Schechter and the lightning round. Jeffrey, how do you see them?
If you live long enough, you get to see everything. Can you imagine Rutgers, a 2.5-point favorite over Michigan?
Ah, no. How about South Carolina, Kentucky?
What does Steve Spurrier and General Custer have in common? They both knew they were walking into an ambush. Take Kentucky.
With the +5. All right, California, Washington.
Cal's a good team, and they're better as a dog. Take the 3.5 against Washington State.
I like this one, the Cleveland Browns at 2-2 at Tennessee.
Tennessee is not a good team. Cleveland played 3 very, very tough games, won one of them. This number's going to go, Cleveland will be favored by game time. Take the Browns.
All right, how about Philadelphia? They've been hot.
The offense didn't score last week, but they're going to score this week, and they're going to score way more than the 7 to cover against the Rams.
All right, Arizona, Denver.
I just like Arizona. They're a good team. They're solid. I like the 7 points. Take the Cardinals.
There you go, the lightning round with Jeffrey the Edge Schechter. Dr. Andrew Lalagi has joined us on set. You have some kind of good medical news for fantasy players.
You know, it's really hard to find healthy running backs this time of year, but we have 3 running backs for you that are A- and higher. We've got Jeremy Hill of Cincinnati, Stephon Taylor of Arizona, and Matt Forte of Chicago.
All right, three backs that could perform well. I want to get one quick comment from both of you, Chuck and Nikki. I'll go with you, Chuck, first on that Alabama-Ole Miss game.
I think Ole Miss has a coming out party. I think it kind of changes the dynamics of the SEC West. I think the Rebels roll.
Wow. How do you see it, Nikki?
I think I like trash talkers. Ole Miss's safety, Cody Prue, was spouting off to Fox Sports saying, we don't think Bama's as good as they've been. And I like it the most when they back it up. So we'll see.
They're going to back it up. They're going to back it up this week.
Alabama's pretty darn good. By the way, for everybody on our cast, this is Bob Neal saying thank you for watching, and we hope you play to win.
Play to Win has been brought to you by John Foy and Associates and Kia Mall of Georgia and Mall of Georgia Chrysler Dodge Jeep.